Absolute Freedom Part 2. Yesterday, I really felt like God was wanting me to share um, really what it means to be free. And this morning, as I was praying about what God was wanting me to speak about, it was more him telling me to say, he was saying, Michael, tell your experience with freedom, how uh, how you fought for freedom and what you had to live through. See, growing up, I believe very strongly, first off, in the verse in the Bible where it says the sins from the father will be carried down throughout the generations. I love my dad. I love my dad more than anything in the world. But the truth of the matter is there were sins that were passed down from him to me and from his father to him. And they are sins that are not going to be passed down to my children. But as I begun to get older and hit puberty and my voice began to drop and all that good stuff, I discovered pornography for the first time in middle school. And it was something that it was like falling off a cliff, basically, as fast as I dove into this addiction. And it was something that I would struggle with and sink further and further and further into addiction throughout my middle school years, and then all throughout high school. I would begin to struggle with or dive deeper until I met Jesus in the summer between 10th and 11th grade at a youth camp here at the church at Christ Central. And I met Jesus, the real Jesus, for the first time. And I experienced, for a glimpse, a moment, what freedom from this thing could look like. But then it took another 2 years, two and a half years of struggling with looking at it, with looking at pornography, with struggling with trying to get free. Because like I said yesterday, I longed to be free, but I struggled with it. I would prevent myself from watching stuff or from doing stuff or going places or hanging out with people. And although in a sense all of those things are good, I wasn't fulfilling, or I wasn't, when I would separate myself or I wouldn't look at the pornography, there was nothing in my life that was better. So the next time a pop-up came up on the computer, or I was Google imaging something for a project, next thing you know, I'm back. I've fallen again. I met my wife, who's my wife, she's my wife now. But I met her my senior year of high school, when I was still struggling with this. And she didn't know about it at first, but of course, because I, loved her, I opened myself up, became real vulnerable with her, and told her that my secret, my dirty little secret. And she was heartbroken. She didn't know what to do. Her being in 10th grade and about to be in 11th, and me getting ready to graduate high school, she didn't know how to handle this thing. But through prayer and through her prayers and her love and her forgiveness and her grace, she stayed with me, and we ended up getting married 2 years later. After we dated for 2 years, and then we got married right after she graduated. And I moved up to become a pastor, youth pastor up in Georgia. And although God had delivered me from pornography, lust was still a big deal with me, and I didn't understand, I couldn't comprehend why. And I remember praying, God, just take this from me, please. God, it would be so much easier if I no longer had a desire to do it. Now maybe you're watching this, and maybe you struggle with pornography, you struggle with lust. And maybe you've prayed that prayer before, where you said, God, just take the desire from me. God really opened up my eyes one day. I was praying that prayer, and he said, Michael, do you realize you're married? And if I were to take that desire from you, you would no longer desire your wife. See, God has built inside all of us a longing to join ourselves with a member of the opposite sex. Now the enemy has come into our world, and he has manipulated, and he has changed some things around, and he has polluted and mutated what God meant for good and what God meant for marriage through movies and through television, through magazines. And if we're not careful, we'll pray that prayer, God, just take this from me. And when all God's saying is, I'm not going to take it from you because I know what an amazing gift it is inside of marriage. But you're right, outside of marriage, you're going to be drowning and you're going to be killing yourself emotionally, and you're killing your marriage. So as this video finishes up, I want you to know that I broke free by following the same things that I said yesterday. I broke free because I fell deeper in love with Jesus. It wasn't my love really for Jill that broke me out of that addiction. It was my love for Jesus. My love for Jill helped, don't get me wrong, but my love for Jesus ultimately is what separated me from that addiction and what allows me to be able to talk to you guys now through video about my victory and my freedom, because salvation is free, but freedom is going to cost you your life. And now here I sit, 23 years old, the assistant youth pastor here at ROC, Christ Central Ministries in Lake City. I've been married to my wife. This July will be 4 years. I'm blown away by what God has done and what God is doing, and what God has in store for me in the future continues to blow my imagination as He begins to drop things into my mind about what my future holds. But the truth of the matter is, if God would have answered my prayer and taken it from me, I would have missed out on the most amazing 4 years with my wife that I've ever had. So instead of praying that God takes it away from you, pray that God would open up your heart and your mind to fall deeper in love with Him and to put people in your life to help draw you to Him. Because salvation is free, but freedom isn't.